What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's Collecting Keys Friday Focus. If this is your first time here, my name is Mike DeHaan, and I am an ex-Boeing engineer who became a real estate investor who now is a guy who talks about business and real estate on the internet. And I don't know, I guess people sometimes get value because we have well over 400 of these episodes and people keep reaching out and following and enjoying what we do. So on these Friday episodes, we like to do a little bit of a deep dive into something that we've been thinking about, or, a topic that we got from a listener or something similar. And on this one today, I kind of want to talk about something that I think is one of the biggest, I would say like risks or habits, I guess, that new entrepreneurs have that kind of like damages their growth. And this is spurred by a conversation that I had with a listener on Instagram who didn't necessarily ask like this specific question, but it was just an observation that I kind of made. And so when I look at like the big picture, I've done a decent amount of work with newer business owners and investors and entrepreneurs over the past number of years since we started the show back in 2021. And there's always this kind of like shiny object syndrome that becomes a common issue, right? Like once someone knows how to make a little bit of money, or once they face some kind of resistance, I guess for lack of a better words, in their growth or their kind of plans, they're always kind of jumping around to the next shiny object, right? Or something they feel like is going to be easier. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about like, why exactly does this happen? And having this Instagram conversation the other day, it kind of like hit me about why like people are so prone to this. And I think it's because there's this constant need, and I don't know if it's like a new thing, something that's always been there, of people that are like in a rush, right? Like they have these deadlines, whether they're intentional or psychological, where they feel like they need to hit a certain thing or a certain level at a certain rate. And whether it's due to FOMO, like they're looking at other people and they're saying like, why aren't I as good as that person? Whether it's out of like desperation because they're unhappy with their life situation, whether it's because they're like, well, my kids are getting older, I need to be available for them before they grow up. There's this constant just drive to do things faster, right? And like this FOMO that exists and this general just like feeling of desperation. And I think that is one of the most damaging things that can happen to new entrepreneurs and new business owners, especially people that kind of start to figure it out. And so in the case I'm talking about with this listener that I was talking to on Instagram, he's a young kid. He's local. I've talked to him for a while on and off over the past couple of years. And, he's been desperate trying to get his business going. He's like working an internship right now. They've done a couple of deals. They have really showed you consistency. And he's like, if you had $2,000 and you wanted to build a business wholesaling real estate, what would you suggest that I do? And my response to him was like, honestly, bro, I'd say you save your $2,000 and you get to work and you save up until you have $10,000 or $15,000, and then you're able to invest in some systems that are actually going to be effective for you, right? Instead of like kind of trying to run the shoestring thing. And his response to me, he goes, yeah, he's like, I figured you would say that. And then he said, quote, what do you say? I said, I just turned 22, so I guess I still have time. And that really kind of floored me, that someone at the age of 22 years old is even kind of like flirting with the idea that they maybe don't have time to be successful, right? Because 99% of you guys are listening, 22 is like freaking young. Like that's like, you're barely an adult. Like you learned that you became able to drink like in the last 18 months, right? And now for some reason, there's like all these young 20-year-olds that think they don't have time to be successful. And is that like entering adulthood? And they sort of are realizing that the life in front of them now is no longer planned. Like, what does that look like? Like, what the cause of that? I don't know. Like, I remember being that age, and I got an engineering degree, right? And so I kind of had like a career, but there wasn't this massive rush to try and figure out how to like get rich. Maybe it's because we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have things that were creating FOMO yet, and so that wasn't really an option. You just kind of went to get a job. And you worked with your boss to get this career plan that was going to be like where you're going to be in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years. You kind of just went along with it. Now you have all these young kids that are like, man, I just need to get rich like tomorrow, otherwise I'm running out of time. And I see the same thing happen with 22-year-olds, 28-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds. And even at 40, right? Like you're still relatively young if you look at big picture of life. And stuff can happen so incredibly fast. if you stick to the same thing and you don't get impatient and you don't try to rush and you don't get this shiny object syndrome, right? So even from my own perspective, real estate investing wasn't even on my radar until I was 28 years old. And so now I'm 34. I started investing in real estate six and a half years ago. And my lifestyle is completely different now. But the one thing I can say is that I've done pretty much the same thing since the beginning. I started flipping houses, I started keeping rentals, and I went into wholesaling. So I want to get better deals. But wholesaling has been the core of my vertical income and my deal flow since late 2019. So as the recording of this, it's April 2025. That's like 5.5 years I've been doing that. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to wholesaling real estate at this point. Almost everyone that I know that's been in the industry over the past number of years has gone. They've gone and moved on to something else. And the vast majority of those people are less successful than I am, right? And that's not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that to prove a point that one of the reasons that I've been able to do well is because I've done the same thing for a weirdly long time. And when I think about that, the biggest challenge that I think as you're entering entrepreneurship is you're going to face these pressure points where you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to work more hours. You're going to have to take some risks, whether that's hiring on staff members or making changes in business or taking home less money so you can reinvest in stuff. And that's what growth takes, right? And probably the worst thing you could do is get this shiny object syndrome, start a new partnership, start a new business, try to do something else, because all that's going to do is detract from your growth. It's going to create a whole new direction of learning that you're going to have to figure out. It's going to divide your attention. It's going to divide your capital. And ultimately, you're probably going to be net in a much worse place. I was just listening to an Alex Hormozi podcast that was talking about this that came out this week. And he talks about pretty much all of the Forbes rich list people except for Elon, right? Almost all their wealth came from a singular business that they did for 25 to 30 years. And not saying that you need to be doing something for 25, 30 years to be successful, but those are billionaires, right? If you want to be someone that has a couple $1,000,000, you can realistically do that in 2, 3, 4 years, but you have to do the same thing with intention over that pipeline, over that timeline. And if you're constantly trying to pivot between new things every 6 to 12 months when stuff gets hard, you're just never really going to get anywhere. And so my point with this is that as you are working and you are trying to figure out what you want to do, really do your best to not be in a rush, right? And just focus on what you're doing and to make sure that time doesn't just fly by, which can happen. Work with intention, right? Set weekly goals, set monthly goals, figure out what your day-to-day looks like, time block your schedule, right? And if you do that and you measure kind of how your growth happens in a very systematic fashion, you probably will find that you don't get quite as much shiny object syndrome because you'll be able to look back and see the growth that you've had, and hopefully it will inspire you to keep doing the same thing moving forward. So I don't know, something to think about. It was just something that I was really floored when this 22-year-old kid was like, I guess I have time. I don't know, man. If I'd started doing what I'm doing now when I was 22 and I'd kept up with it until now, I don't even know where I would be, because I would have been, 2012. I'd be so rich, you guys. I definitely wouldn't be making this silly podcast, honestly. But yeah, so just be intentional about stuff. Don't be in a rush and enjoy the process and be along for the ride, and understand that successful business does take time. And everything that you do that kind of distracts you from the main thing that you started to build proficiency in will just ultimately delay your progress and success that you're really trying to see. So hopefully that's hope for you guys, or at least gives you something to think about. If you enjoy this, please share it with all your friends. It's the greatest way for us to continue growing the show. It's through word of mouth. So share it on your Instagram. Tell your friends about it. Share the link. You can find that anywhere that they listen to their shows. I appreciate you guys for listening. I'll talk to you guys next week.